Maybe. It says we're live.
Hey, what time is it?
So, it's prime time. We were at a swap, and I have actually never thought of this. And dude next to us is like, hey, what time is it? I was like, I was in the middle of setting up the booth. He's like, it's prime time. I'm like, you would think, somebody who names their channel that would have thought of that before.
Right? No.
I didn't. He did. And we had to use it. So there you go.
So funny.
It's your boy Jason here. It's prime time. It's your girl Joanna.
It doesn't work it doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't.
No, so just leave that second part off.
No, it doesn't. But anyway, thanks for being here. Glad you're here hanging out with us. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. All kinds of things. We're going to do a giveaway at some point tonight. We've got things to talk about. We've been places. We're going places. We've got things to do. We've done videos. We've got, there's a lot going on. So I am, of course, representing Ugly Christmas Sweater number 2. Last week, I don't remember which one I wore. I think that was Christmas Vacation. This one is the Bears. And I've got, this isn't even my favorite team. The Bears are my second favorite team. I'm saving my favorite team for next week. So that is the plan for next week. You'll get to see my favorite team, Ugly Christmas Sweater. So that's what's going on there. And glad you're all here hanging with us. Thanks to all the moderators. I see Dave. I see James. I see Oink.
Sweet.
I see Whip. I see France. All right, that last one I don't really see. I can't see that far. I can barely even see to the screen, as most of you know.
Chris says, go Dolphins.
Dolphins, they're good this year.
Are they?
Yeah, surprisingly. I mean, I don't know when the last time they were actually like a legit playoff contender, but from what I understand, they're not doing too bad. So anyway, things that have happened over this last week. Videos that have come out on Sunday. Last Sunday, I did the video about how to avoid picking out a fish tank that is going to break on you at some point. So if you haven't seen it, check it out, because I think it's a rather short video, 5 or 6 minutes, but hopefully it'll give you some good tips on how to make, or at least do the best you can to ensure that your tank isn't going to break on you later on. OD, thanks for being a member the last 6 months, last half a year. Hi, I'm lurking here. When you leave a message, now you're in it, man. You're in it.
Lurking.
Glad you're here. Thank you. Today, on the small scape, what did you talk about today?
10 questions you should ask yourself before getting nanofish.
10? You got to ask 10 questions of yourself?
Yeah, they're very helpful.
So you got to just sit there and ask yourself the questions.
Yeah.
Do you have to look in a mirror?
No.
Can you just pretend that you're sitting next to yourself? Do you have to have the conversation?
You can play two parts or one part. I mean, you can go like this and then answer it and then ask it and then answer it if you want. Or you can just, mull it over.
Does anybody find that as they get older, they actually have a lot of conversations with themselves, like
all the
talking
time
to themselves, like just legit?
Yeah. You want to hear the worst thing? Because I am an introvert. So
when you get into an argument with yourself?
All of my conversations historically have been in my head. So my sister is really good at saying, all right, like if I said, well, I told Dad, or I told you, and she'll ask me, did you say it out loud? And that's a good question, because then I have to think about it. I don't know if I did. But the funniest thing is I was coming in the house once, and this was years ago, and one of the boys was like, are you okay or something? And I was like, yeah. Or they're like, who are you talking to? I'm like, nobody. I'm like, why? And they said, because your mouth was moving. So I was literally having a conversation. It happens.
See? All right, so I'm glad that I'm not the only one. And some of you, if you're having conversations with yourself, I will say, with the advent of the cellular phone, if you're talking to yourself in your car, nobody thinks anything of it anymore. They just think, oh, you must be talking to somebody in your car.
True.
15 years ago, you do that, people would be looking at you like, what is that weirdo doing? So happy about that. Other things coming up Thursday. We got the members video. Got to take you around the fish room. Got to show you some things. I had to make a rather major purchase for the fish room just to keep it doing what it does.
Yeah.
So that's going to be getting set up, if not tonight, tomorrow morning. And then Sunday on prime time, it's going to be species profile time. It's a fish I really like. It's one I should have done well before this, but I didn't. So it's going to happen on Sunday. Places we're going to be. This Saturday, we are going to be at the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap. That is in Tinley Park at the Zion Lutheran Church in Tinley Park. That's a new location, new day. We did that last month, worked out pretty well. So if you are in the area, the Chicagoland, Northern Illinois, Southern Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, those kind of areas, even Michigan, check it out. We've got all the fish on our website available for pre-order. Some of the stuff is already sold out. Thank you for that. So that's where we're going to be Saturdays, the Greenwater Aquarius Society swap. And then next month in January, we've got two things going on. On the 15th, that's a Sunday, we've got another GCCA swap. That is in Northbrook. Big turnout last week. That was really cool. So that was awesome. And by the way, if you're ever going to one of these swaps and you see fish that you want, I've said this before, I need to say it again, just pre-order. Trust me, it's every single swap. We have people show up and like, hey, do you have this or do you have that? And I'm like, no, a lot of the stuff, the things that people really want sell out within, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it's always best to pre-order. And then again, on the 21st of January, there is a Greenwater swap. So that's where we're going to be. Those are the places where we're going to be hanging out, talking fish, bringing in a bunch of cool fish. So that is the deal there. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the class, Add?
Yeah, we got a lot of people who appreciate a solid movie like Elf.
Yeah, that's true.
Sporting son of a nutcracker.
I was very disappointed that we did not get to watch Elf for the first time this Christmas season until last night.
Yesterday was the first time.
Yeah, usually by now, it's December. Usually by now we've seen that movie at least a half a dozen times. Christmas Vacation, I think we've only seen 3 times. Die Hard twice, Lethal Weapon a couple times. Yes, Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. Lethal Weapon is as well. And it's the first one.
I've only seen The Cheaters once, so.
I don't even know what that is, and I don't need to see
it. No,
you
don't. You would hate it.
So, yeah, that's the story there. And like I said, later on, we've got to give away some cool stuff. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly certain we've got giveaways going on pretty much the rest, if not the rest of the month, most of the rest of the month. Because we got some stuff that we still want to pass along to you, because that'll be fun. It's fun for us to do that. And hopefully it's fun for you too. So, the title, do you know what the title of today's live stream is?
Something about sponsors.
Something about sponsors. You just don't pay attention to anything I do anymore, do you?
Well, I knew it's about sponsors.
It is about sponsors. It's about how sometimes people get burned by sponsors. And I wanted to talk about it because there's been a lot going on lately, and I think it's a good time. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. We're going to spend a lot of time answering your questions. So if you've got them in the back of your head, don't flood them up in the chat just yet, because eventually it's going to get too far up and I might not be able to see them. But I did want to talk about sponsors, about how sponsors can be a good thing, but they can be a bad thing, what they are to us, and what they are to you through us, because I think it's something that needs to be just kind of addressed. And the reason why I want to address this topic is there's been a lot of issues lately. If you go on YouTube, there have been some big time fallout for some YouTubers who have had sponsors and gotten burned really bad. And I don't know, I watch a lot of financial channels, and for some of you, if you're into like finance, macroeconomics, or like the crypto scene, there is a company, FTX, and there were a number of the YouTube channels that I watched that were sponsored by FTX, and they were pushing their viewers to basically give FTX money and be part of their crypto exchange. Well, for those of you who keep up with current news, that company is basically bankrupt now, and they lost not 1 million, but 1 billion with a B dollars. It's more or less evaporated. And a lot of these YouTubers that I watched that were promoting this FTX, well, they kind of sold their viewers down the river with that one, and they've lost everything, and they're probably not ever going to see their money again. And so that's a pretty sad thing. The other one is some of the YouTubers I watched. There was what happens is in the land of YouTube, as a channel grows to a certain size, you start getting emails and you start getting people reaching out to you to promote things, and in some cases to promote things that are completely unrelated to whatever it is you do. And we get a lot of those. I get a lot of those emails like, hey, why don't you promote this stuff? And one of those, they didn't contact me, but one of the ones that you see on YouTube is the, I think it's and don't quote me, it's like the established titles or something. It's the one where you buy this thing and you get like a little plot of land and it's like a square foot of land somewhere in, I don't know if it's like Scotland or Ireland or something. Don't quote me. I don't remember. But it turned out, it sounds like it's mostly a fake thing. And again, there were a number of YouTubers, at least ones that I watch, and you'd see that from time to time, like, oh, and when you'd see these advertisements, little channel sponsor things, you'd be like, wow, that's interesting. How does that work? Well, it turns out it doesn't work all that well. So it's kind of interesting in that you have to be careful. You have to be really careful and choose sponsors wisely. D says SBF should be in jail. I'm not going to argue that. I mean, it's not a political channel, but yeah, I think there's some serious problems going on there. So with that in mind, I just felt like it's a good idea to just make sure people know where we stand as a channel, what we do, how we choose these sponsors, because on the live streams, we're always talking about, okay, this channel sponsor provided this product to give to you, right? That's one of the things that sponsors do. On Primetime Aquatics, we have 2 sponsors. These sponsors pay us. So I want to be very clear about that. They pay us to be a partner with them. The first one is Flip Aquatics. The second one is Fritz Aquatics. And for those of you who watch the live streams regularly, you know that, because a lot of the giveaways that we do, all the giveaways that we do for the most part, that's either a Flip Aquatics or Fritz Aquatics sponsored giveaway. All right, that's kind of how that works. I think it's important to understand from a Primetime Aquatics perspective, we choose our sponsors. We don't just jump on any opportunity. We have, I would say, dozens of companies reach out to us every single year asking us to promote their equipment or promote their product, whether it's, vast majority are related to the aquarium hobby. Some are not. And we have 2, right? We have 2 channel sponsors. Could we have more? Yes. But what we've always said is it's not worth bringing on a sponsor and having happen to us and to you what's happened to people who promoted companies like FTX, where they told their viewers, hey, this is going to be a great idea. Why don't you go over there, shoot over there? And then those YouTubers make some money and they make their commissions and they get paid a bunch of money by those companies, and then wind up having your viewers get messed over, because the fallout from that, from what I've seen from the channels I watch, is very serious. I mean, they eroded trust. They've broken trust that may never come back. And so one of the things that we do is there's got to be a couple things that happen when we bring on channel sponsors. One, it has to be a company that we believe in. It's a company that we feel comfortable with. It has to be a company where we believe in the products, that we use the products, not just say we use them, but actually use them, and we've used them for a while. It's not something like, hey man, we're going to send you a product and use it a couple times, and if you like it, why don't we have a relationship? That's not how this works, because if you just use a product a couple times, you might not really know how well that product actually does. Is it reliable? Is it consistent? Is it, if it's electronics or a light or a heater or a filter, how long is this thing going to last? The vast majority of the unboxings that I do, I buy those things myself because I don't want to be influenced. Now, yes, some companies, Marineland a few years ago sent us a filter. It was a brand new Marineland Pro. But I'd already been using those Penguin filters for like 20 years, 15 years. So I was comfortable with that. So we choose, right? We choose those sponsors. For Flip Aquatics, why do we choose a company to partner with like Flip Aquatics? And by the way, for both Flip and Fritz Aquatics, we are partnering with them again in 2023. Why Flip Aquatics? We've gotten to know Rob and Amanda very, very well over the last few years. We know them as people. We know what they believe in terms of customer service. We know how they're trying to run their business. We know with the companies that we associate with that if something gets messed up, they lose sleep over it. This is not something that they take lightly. It's something where if we have an association, a partnership with a company, I want to be able to call the person who's in charge of that company like, hey, you know what, I'm starting to get some bad feedback. This needs to get fixed because I don't feel like having my reputation and my trust that I've built with you damaged because you're no longer doing what you're supposed to be doing. I don't want to get into that conversation, but I would have it in a heartbeat if I started getting a bunch of feedback, and that's what it required. So with Rob and Amanda, they are people who are absolutely focused, and Rob and his whole team are focused on making sure that when they ship stuff and when they whether it's shrimp or fish or anything else, plants or supplies, they get it right. And if they don't get it right, if it's not perfect, they do something about it, right? With Fritz, now Fritz doesn't generally sell direct to the public. They sell through, like Flip Aquatics carries a lot of Fritz stuff. A lot of people carry Fritz types of things. And again, it's the same thing. I've gotten to know the people that are in charge of Fritz Aquatics USA, and I've used their products extensively. When I say, hey, if you've got a problem with ammonia, Fritz Zyme 7 or Fritz Turbo Star, or if you've got a sickness and you need antibiotics, the Maricin 2, or Maricin Oxy, or any of these things, Expel P, Paracleanse, you name it, it's because I've used those things and I know that they work. I just had, and you were here for that at the swap, we had one of our customers come up to us and say, hey, thank you so much, because last month they had a big problem. They had a big fungal infection with fish they really cared about, some expensive fish. And hey, check out the Expel F. It's an antifungal. That should do the trick. He came back this month and was like, wow, thank you so much. It worked within like 3 days. Everything was gone. And that's the kind of thing we want. It does us, it does me no good, it does you no good to promote products and companies that are going to fail you, because that just breaks our trust. It makes me someone who, if you can't trust me with that, then how can you trust me with anything else that I say, right? So we try really hard to make sure that what we promote, we believe in, and that they're going to have a good track record. And so that's why we partner with Flip Aquatics and Fritz Aquatics. We have other associations as well. We have worked with KG Tropicals in the past. Joanna and Lisa, we consider to be very good friends. We like them very, very much. And I've talked, it's one of those things where every time we go to, the Aqua Shellers or whatever, it's John and I and a group of people, we're sitting up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning shooting the breeze. And you really, over the last few years, I've really gotten to know John well, and I know you've gotten to know Lisa better.
Lisa.
And I know that when we've worked together, if something's not right, he's going to make it right. Aquarium Co-op, we've worked with them a lot, and I talk with Corey periodically, and I know what his views are in customer service. And I know if something gets messed up, he's going to want to fix it. I know that he puts the customer first. I know how hard he works to make sure that his company's reputation is solid, right? So we are very, very, very selective on the companies we associate with, because I don't want to get burned by and run into the same situation that these YouTubers are running into with these crypto companies and these crypto exchanges where they're like, hey, yeah, buy this stuff. Their customers lose a bunch of money. That would be like me saying, okay, buy this product, buy these shrimp, buy these fish, and all of a sudden everything's dead and the products don't work. What good does that do us, right? That does me no good, or you. So I wanted to kind of share that because I think it's important where we're at and how we do these things. And maybe in the future we'll partner with other companies, but I'm not in a rush to do that, because I get so many requests. Hey, check out this product. Why don't you, we'll give you commissions and we'll give you these links and everything. It's like, well, I don't know your product. I don't know you. I appreciate you reaching out. I do. I appreciate when companies reach out, but if I don't know you personally, or I haven't used your product, well, I'm not taking the chance right now. I might bring it in and I might test it for 6 months or a year and see if it's something, but it's not something where I'm just going to run off and be like, oh, buy this thing because they just gave me 20 filters or 100 lights. And believe me, I've had people say, hey man, we'll put lights in your fish room. All of them. And I'm like, I haven't used them. I can't do that. So anyway, that's the deal with that. So I hope you understand where we're coming from and how we go about that process. So what you got over there?
Well, first of all, Oink, Master Supreme Forever, is not feeling very well. I don't know how long she's going to be here, so hopefully you feel better soon. And let's see. Aquascaper's in the house. Melanie's here, and James.
Cool. Wow.
Hey.
All the cool kids.
Yeah, and then I think there was a question: Cubs or Sox?
Here we go. I'm going to make half the people mad. Actually, I'm probably going to make everybody
pretty much
somewhat mad or annoyed. The White Sox are my favorite team because when I was in T-ball, that was the team I played for a couple years in T-ball, and I just always stuck with the White Sox. That was the games that my parents would take us to, was Comiskey Park. It's always going to be Comiskey Park. I don't know what they call it these days. It's Comiskey Park to us in Chicagoland. But I also don't mind the Cubs. I mean, we were up when they won. It was at 2016. We were up waiting, heart pounding. I like them both. I will watch them both.
So weird.
And even though the White Sox are my favorite team, if the White Sox were in last place and the Cubs needed that game to get into the playoffs, I'd probably be like, all right, I hope the Cubs win this game. I'll just, it's not ideal, but that's just the way I am. So, yeah. Leo, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I want to move some scuds from my culture outside into a 5-gallon tank, but that tank isn't green water. They should be fine in that tank, right? Any advice? I don't keep scuds, so I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it's not. I don't feed them out or anything, so I'm not sure. I mean, I would think they'd be okay, but it's not something where I can tell you from experience. Oh yeah, it's fine. Here's what I did, because I haven't done it, unfortunately. So, if anybody's kept scuds and moved them around, feel free to pipe on and help Leo 209 out and make sure he's on the right track. But I think you are. What you got?
Oh, Felicia wants to know, have you tried Rummy Nose again since your care video? I keep them at 8 pH, 300 plus GH, and 180 kH with no problems.
We've got some plans for Rummy Nose Tetris now, because we've been keeping the Rummy Nose Rasbora, otherwise known as the Sabwell Rasbora. We've brought in a bunch of those over the last couple months. Love those fish.
They're
But the
so
Rummy Nose
pretty.
Tetra, yeah, they're going to be getting another go of it here pretty soon. And after doing that video from Aquashella, it's like, all right, I need to start bringing them in again, and we'll try some different things to make sure that they're working out okay. So yeah, you're reading my mind. I was going to say psychedelic. That's not what I'm psychic. You're psychedelic, man. Sharpie says, love the sweater, Jason. Well, thank you. It's getting a little warm in here, so if I pass out, this is why, because I'm wearing this sweater is significantly thicker and more heat trapping than the one I wore yesterday. Or last week, I mean. It's
You're going to be toasty warm.
It's a little bit higher quality, and I'm going to pay the price for that, but I'm willing to do it for you and keeping with the holiday theme.
Wow, that's great.
I know.
AJK Aquaria says Gemco would be a solid sponsor. Can you imagine that?
Gemco has never given me a dime, and I will tell you, I love
their customer
Gemco.com.
service is like, I'll just listen to him talk, and the lady that answers the phone,
she's one of the most wonderful human beings I have ever had the pleasure to talk to and she's been that way for years and years. And it's the same woman. I wish I knew her name. I'm going to ask her next time, because I think I used to know it and then I forgot. But she's been answering that phone and taking orders and is so knowledgeable. Yeah, Gemco.com. It's a company where if you've got a fish room, it makes a lot of sense, because they sell things in bulk, like big, air blowers and stuff like that, or for, hey man, I need 100 nets, or big volumes of stuff. Like, I know now more recently the extreme foods have been really popular, but Gemco was carrying that stuff years and years and years and years and years ago, and they would sell these big giant containers. So yeah, Gemco is amazing. The only thing I wish for them is that they had the ability just to pay via credit card online, but you have to call or send them an email. But it's not bad, because like I said, the customer service is so insanely outstanding that I don't mind calling, because she's the most wonderful person you could ever want to talk to. So yeah.
Joe Beal says, wants to know, does Fritz make a product that would compare to API Stress Zyme? API has gone up over $5 in the last couple months, starting to get too expensive when running 22 tanks.
Yeah, I think is the Fritz Complete, I think, might be similar. I think, right? Don't quote me on that. Or it's the Fritz Guard, one of them. Just go on FritzAquatics.com. It's either the Fritz Guard or the Fritz Complete. I can't remember off the top of my head which one is more like the Stress Zyme. But
yeah, is there a powder formula that you can get cheaper? Anything
the problem with the powdered water conditioners, water additives, is it's for larger volumes. That's why we use it, because we go through so much. And if you got like really large tanks, like, oh man, I've got a do a water change in my 400 gallon, then it works out great. But if you're trying to measure out the powder on something that's and it's no different than like the Seachem Safe, that powder is like, what do you need, like a quarter of a teaspoon to treat 300 gallons? And so, you're trying to do a 10 gallon, like, all right, I think I need this little tiny bit. Like, it doesn't look like it's going to do anything. So the powder stuff is great if you've got larger volumes. Melanie says, I love Rob and Amanda. Good people. Yeah, they're hard not to like. Terry says, does Flip ship to upstate New York? I think they ship everywhere in the continental 48. John says, do they pay you for actual money or products for a fish room and giveaways? Both. All the above. So all of our Northfin foods come from Flip, which we feed pretty much exclusively, like all the prepared foods. That all comes from Flip. Love this stuff because the fish food is when you feed enough of it like we do, when you've got 80 tanks and you're feeding out all these different fish, you really start to notice some things, like especially when it just comes to simple flake food. Like with the Northfin stuff, it doesn't float a super long time compared to some of the cheaper fish foods. But I don't remember if it was Jay Wilson or somebody was saying, hey, you use these higher quality foods, you're going to get less fish waste because more of the food is food and not binder. And so you wind up the fish actually use more of the nutrients and you might not have to feed as much either. And that turned out to be true. And they don't, it's not pretty colors like some of the others commercially produced stuff, but it's good stuff, man. The Northfin foods. What you got?
James says that he wants some of those green barbs that were in Jeff's tank and saw it in my video today. Heck yeah, take a number, man. Those fish were popping in the tank. I was like,
Yeah, they were pretty cool.
Yeah. And then also, let's see. Oh, there was one thing. Hold on. Oh, I think Whip is confused. Not that that's unusual that Whip is confused.
Wow.
Oh, just kidding. Just kidding, Whip.
She's over there abusing our mods.
This says, Mr. Adams. Isn't he so polite? Yes. Mr. Adams, I cannot agree with you anymore. I'm a White Sox fan first, but I like the Cubs too. I'm not from the city of Chicago. I have no north side, south side rivalry. So that's exactly like this guy here. So you do agree with him.
Yeah. He said he couldn't agree with me more. He means he agrees with me. But
he says anymore. I can't agree with you. Oh, I get it.
That she's got reading comprehension.
You could actually read that two different ways.
We could read
like
it the negative way that you
or
read
anymore.
It. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, well said then.
Love it.
But
yeah.
I got you. Okay.
But here's a good one for all you New York people. You ready for this? So White Sox are my favorite. Cubs are my second. And I mean very close, third. And I don't even know if they got into a World Series together, I might switch. The Yankees are like way up there, probably tied with the Cubs. Like if the Cubs and Yankees played in the World Series, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah,
I'd probably be wearing my Derek Jeter jersey and maybe I would balance it out with like a Cubs hat or something. But I would be one confused human being. So, love the Yankees. I'm at least indifferent to the Mets. And then football, for some reason, on the New York side, I don't know why. Maybe it's because Eli likes the Jets. He just started liking the Jets as a little kid. So I'm like, oh, the Jets aren't bad. But I've never been a fan of the Giants. So go figure. It's just weird things. And my brother makes fun of me because like with football, he's a Steelers fan. And it's like he lives, eats, and breathes the Steelers. Like one of those people on the commercials. You're like, do those people really exist? He does. Whip, I know you're a Steelers fan. But my brother, trust me, he's more insane than you, I think. He's got Steelers everything. I mean everything. So I was like, well, who's your second favorite team? He looked at me like, I don't have a second favorite team. So it was at Thanksgiving. He's like, well, who's your second? And I listed like first. I listed my top 10 in order.
Yeah, it's so weird.
And he's like, how can you have a top 10? I'm like, I don't know. I just do. Am I the only one? Do you guys have that too, where you could have a top 10 and be okay with it? It's just the way I roll, man. I can't help it.
Do we have any native species like sunfish these days? We did have a pygmy sunfish. That was fun.
We have pygmy sunfish. We've got rainbow shiners right now in the fish room. Had some crayfish, local crayfish for a while. At one point I had yellow perch, really pretty fish. Tried to do a sunfish tank. Sunfish are basically like a more aggressive version of peacock cichlids, and they get pretty big, and so they need a fairly large tank. What else? Native. We've done some of the gobies. We've had some of the gobies before. Heteroanda formosa. So we've got the Fleur-de-lis Achilles in a tank behind us and one downstairs as well. So that's kind of the extent of what we've been doing lately. Yeah. Michelle says, I want yellow perch. They're cool. They really are. Get to be, I don't know, probably an aquarium. I think they'd probably max out, maybe 12, 14 inches. But what I liked about them is they were relatively relaxed fish. And they, at least at the size that I had them before I made my big mistake and did a huge water change. I didn't dechlorinate the water, didn't realize it until the next, later that night, and they were all no longer with us. Big mistake. But at about 6 to 8 inches, from what I can remember, they still were always hanging out together. So it was pretty cool. Unlike sunfish that were, they'd rip each other apart. Those didn't do that. At least not when I had them.
Lucas wants to know, what is the maximum number of pygmy cories you'd put in a 10-gallon?
8 to 10, I think, would probably be
Yeah.
what I would do.
Yeah, it'd be a nice little group.
Yeah.
Make yourself a nice little pile.
M&C says, it's not officially Christmas till the gremlins sing carols. I guess that, we should probably watch that. I mean, that was last year. Someone corrected us that Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen the whole movie.
They get Gremlins for Christmas.
Oh. Wow. Yeah, I have to watch that movie.
See, Whip did correct you anymore.
Yeah. You're right. You're right.
Thank you very much. All right, let me see here. I was scrolling around. I thought I found something that I wanted to answer, and then the whole thing just jumps around.
Yeah, I know. Mine's really being weird.
Sam says, will fish help me get a girlfriend?
Maybe a betta fish.
I
think that would be your best bet.
You could try it. If nothing else, fish may help you not care as much about not having a girlfriend. How about that? So
good point.
I've got these fish. You know how there's cat ladies and stuff? There are fish people who are like, you know what? For right now, I'm good with my fish. And then you could show your fish off and be like, look at this. I have fish. And they'll be like, wow. The girl will be like, this is great. Can't believe it. Davey says, just picked up a Fluval Flex 9-gallon. Have the new tank. Yeah, that's always cool when you get that brand new tank. You're getting it all set up. Thinking about, what am I going to put in this bad boy? That's cool. That is very cool.
Oh, yeah. You know what, Noelle? I totally agree with you here.
What?
I totally agree. And that was one of the things that shifted me from the no to the yes. Okay, you ready?
What?
She recently heard that someone made the ultimate argument for Die Hard as a true Christmas movie. His wife's name is Holly.
Holly! Were you screaming it? Well, that was in Die Hard 2. And Die Hard 2 is a Christmas movie too, isn't it? Yeah, because I got the present and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent point.
Lisa says, how does sea chem stability compare to Fritz IM 7? Can't get 7 locally and have my replacement tank set up. It's got live nitrifying bacteria, and people who use it seem to like it. So, yeah, I think it'll be fine. I wouldn't stress about it. Saints Dust says, I need aquarium parts. Who sells aquarium braces? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think Gemco wouldn't sell the braces. I mean, you're talking about the center brace along the top of a tank. I'm not sure who would actually sell something like that. I think a lot of times you'd have to go to a specialty place and either have somebody build one out of aluminum, or if it's plastic. I know guys in the club who, when something cracked, they would more or less just melt plastic onto it to kind of fix it up. Now, I don't know how big of a tank they tried that on. I think it was just a 55. If it was a big, huge tank, I don't know if I would trust it. M&C says, I love my Gemco pump. Yeah, those things. If you ever get to a point in your fish keeping hobby where you're starting to run, for us, I think it was maybe 15 tanks or more, when it started to become an issue with all the hang-on back filters and all the heaters and all the lights, and we were running out of outlets, and we were running power strips everywhere, and it was sucking up a lot of juice, where you begin to think about, would it be more economical, right, to take a central air pump and run a small air system around, provided that all your tanks are in the same place, right? Now, if they're spread out all over the house, this isn't going to work. But if they're in one room, or like we have in a basement, it might just be easier to run PVC along the ceiling and drop air lines from the PVC into tanks and run sponge filters. And that's one of the things that Gemco specializes in. And what's cool is when you call them, you basically tell them, like when I first set it up, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, okay, I've got this many tanks. I know I'm going to set up this system, but I didn't know what size pump I needed. And they ask a million questions. And that's one of the reasons why I think they want you to call. It probably cuts down significantly on the returns of these pieces of equipment that can get expensive. And that is, okay, well, how many tanks do you have? How far is the furthest tank from where you're going to put the pump? How far is it from the ceiling to where that tank is going to be? How deep is that tank? Because if, like for us, when we have issues in our fish room with our air system, it's the 4-foot 150 that usually is one of the first ones that has a problem, because it's a 30-inch tall tank, so it's a lot of water pressure, and that line has to go pretty far, and it's also one of the furthest away from the pump. So those sponge filters start to suffer, and the 55s way in the back corner, they also start to suffer. But they ask you all those questions so that they give you the best possible setup. And then they've got a little silencer thing, like an air bleed system, in case the pump is running a little bit too hard. You can relieve some of that back pressure. It's pretty cool.
Ben wants to know good schooling fish for a 20-gallon long. So does Matthew.
Schooling fish for a 20 long.
I know what I would pick.
There's so many options.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Go ahead. Pick one. We'll
All
go
right,
rapid fire.
All right, because I'm going to do 4. You want to do alternating or what?
Yes.
Okay. Green neon,
Cherry barb.
black neon,
Galaxy rasbora.
lambi rasbora,
Green kubatai.
ember tetra.
Chili rasbora.
Those were my 4 that I thought
Then I
off.
had 4 as well. Did I have 4?
I think so. What say you all?
Yeah, those I think would all be pretty cool.
What do you think? What do we miss?
Furcata rainbow, threadfin rainbow, Selby's rainbow. They're small, so they're not like the big 4 or 5 inch ones. Those would all be cool.
Celestials would be fun.
A Harlequin rasbora would be pretty cool as well. Gold tetra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gold tetra.
Rummy nose tetra. So there you go. There's a whole mess load of options for you. White clouds. Yep, Rick, Tracy are saying white clouds.
Yeah.
We're jumping on the bandwagon here. Silver tip tetra. Yep. Embers, chilies. Nice. Very cool.
Glow lights. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those are
Yeah.
good too.
Excellent.
Dustin says, favorite stocking options. Oh, it went too fast. Where did it go? Favorite stocking options for a 33 long. 33 long, for those of you who don't know, is basically the same as a 55, just shorter. So where the 55 is 21 to 23 inches tall, I don't remember exactly. The 33 long is only about 12 inches tall. Really cool because it's a lot easier to work on. I just think the dimensions overall are more interesting for me, and it's really easy to double, and in our case, triple stack the 33 longs. It's a cool tank if you've got, hey, I've got a double stand and I want to put a 55 on top, but if I put a 55 on the bottom, I don't have enough space. The 33 longs tend to work out much better. So, all that being said, for the 33 long, I mean, right now, so our 33 longs, we've got, in the top tank, I have a breeding group of species 44. They're Lake Tanganyika cichlids. In the middle one, I've done a smaller Lake Tanganyika setup. So we've got, let's see, we have Transcriptus in that tank. I think I might have some small gold compressiceps in there. Some Cygnus, which kind of look like Brochardi. At one point I had Lelupi, I had Calypterus. So small Lake Tanganyika, like rock dwellers. I think that's pretty cool because you could set out, like we did a bunch of flagstone. If you look at the fish room tour, we did a bunch of flagstone. So yeah, the shell dwellers are a fantastic option for that. If I'm doing shell dwellers in a 33 long, I might just pick one type, like maybe Maltese or Similis, or if you want to go a little bit more aggressive, the Gold Ocellatus, the Brevis, the Meleagris. And then, in the bottom one, we've got some Guayana Cara, which is a cool New World, I think it's South American cichlid. I don't think it's Central. I can't remember now. Along with the Nanoluteus, the Cryptoheris nanoluteus, which is kind of a goldfish with blue eyes, really pretty. And they've each got a side of the tank, some woodwork down there, and they're breeding, at least the Nanoluteus are breeding on one side. But the 33 long is cool because it's 4 feet long. So now all those schooling fish we just talked about, you could do fairly large groups of them, or even in a 33 long, you could do like the dwarf rainbow fish would be pretty cool. The only thing that gets tricky in a 33 long is you don't really want tall-bodied fish. Like angelfish would definitely not work in a 33 long. Severums, discus would never work in a 33 long. So yeah, you just don't want tall-bodied fish. Even goldfish, I suppose, would probably be a little rough because there's just not a lot of space there for them. So yeah, but that's a cool tank. You know what I think we should do? Do you think we should do this? This right here?
Yeah.
This situation here?
For sure.
So I think it is time to do the giveaway. That's what I think. So we're going to do the giveaway. So I'm going to explain first, of course, what we're giving away, and then we'll talk about the rules. Most of you who are familiar know what the rules are. And if you don't, well, we're going to leave you out in the cold. Too bad. You're going to have to learn while you go. Just kidding. We'll tell you. Okay, so we've got 2 things. One winner is going to win 2 things. And the 2 things are valued at $50. I just looked it up, right? That's something I never do, is I never actually look up the value of some of the stuff. I mean, I know it when I, initially grab it all, and then I'm like, oh, yeah. So the first thing tonight is all about the meds, man. First thing, and this is brought to you by Fritz Aquatics, as we just talked about, one of our channel sponsors. Fritz Aquatics, lots of really cool meds and additives, and it's got the Fritz Zyme 7, Fritz Turbo Start, really, really good stuff, and their meds are insanely good. And we bring in, as some of you know, we bring in lots and lots and lots of fish every month. If they start to show some external issues, we're hitting them with this stuff, and I've never had this not work on me, at least not to this point. So very, very happy. This is Maricin, and so Maricin is good for a lot of the external stuff, the bacterial infections that you might come across. And I always get the Maricin 1 and 2 confused. Yes, this is the erythromycin. So that's the antibiotic erythromycin. That's the Maricin, and this is a 24 pack. All right, so each pack treats 10 gallons. So this may last you a while. I keep these things in the fridge if I'm not using them. It helps stabilize them, last a little bit longer. So you're getting the Maricin. And then you are also getting the Maricin 2 fun pack, and that is also 24 packages, which is going to treat, each one treats, I believe it's 10 gallons. And this is the minoxidil. So that's another antibiotic. And so these 2 are absolutely fantastic. And usually what I'll do is, if I'm noticing an issue with some of the fish that we've brought in, and again, when I quarantine, I don't treat fish unless I see something is going wrong. So usually I hit them with this, and most of the time, after 2 or 3 of the treatments, as the directions state, the stuff's gone. And if it's not, then this happens. And by that time, usually that is going to solve the vast majority of our problems. We also have in our fish room the Maricin Oxy. We'll talk more about that at some point in the near future. So one winner is going to get that. Now, the rules are, 1, you have to live in the 48 states. 2, you got to be at least 18 years old. And 3, you have to pick, hold on, don't do it now. Don't even try, because it won't count until I say, now I said go. You got to pick a number between 80 and 100. The first person that picks the number that Joanna, 80 and 100. Pick between 80 and 100. 80 and 100. Pick between 80 and 100, and you'll be fine. Let's see here.
And make sure you're on live chat, not top chat.
Yeah, otherwise it'll show the thing.
I see it.
Stop. You can stop typing now, according to Joanna. You can stop typing the numbers because someone has already picked the right number. Hold on, I'm just scrolling down because right here.
Yes.
Okay,
now we should double check
let's
it
just
though.
Double check, because we like to do that. We don't like to hurt anybody's feelings. I'd be like, man, that was me. You got it wrong. So hold on a second here. We got to make sure the person picked the number, and we're going to reconfirm. In fact, yes, dual confirm. Okay, show everybody the number. The number was Ta-da! 88. That means
88.
you, Carrie N. Wagner.
Woohoo!
Carrie N. Wagner, you are the winner.
Yay.
Carrie N. Wagner, you've never won before because
No.
I would have just remembered somebody who puts their
Yeah.
middle initial in their name because I think that's pretty cool. So, Carrie N. Wagner, congratulations. Here's what you have to do. You are going to go onto the internet and you are going to send us an email. You're going to send that email. Are you ready? Here we go. To Prime Time Giveaway,
Singular.
Prime Time Giveaway at yahoo.com. Send us your full mailing address, and then when Joanna gets to the post office in the next probably 5 to 7 days, she's going to send out the stuff. That's how easy it was. So that was Fritz Aquatics, and I am hoping that we are going to sit down in the next week or two and figure out the plan for 2023. They've got some stuff coming out in the very, very near future that I cannot wait to get my hands on, because when I get my hands on it, you all get your hands on it too, because that's how it works. It's just one of those things. The longer we've been doing this, the longer we prefer, if someone's going to give us stuff, it's just to turn around and give it to you, because that's a lot of fun.
Sure is.
So thank you. Thank you for playing the
Yay!
We Almost Won, but you know what's really frustrating is because you see all the other 88s popping up here. Jasmine's got an 88. Whip actually picked 88. Oh, dude.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. He picks 47 all the time, and he picks 88.
But did he pick it after we said it? Because I could see him doing that.
Oh, maybe.
I could totally see you doing that.
Well, second floor
but
picked 83, 85.
Really?
So we should do that one time. First person who picks a number between 1 and 10,000.
Oh
like
my gosh,
25
right?
hours later, the whole stream is all jacked up. We crash YouTube.
Oh my gosh. Keep losing track.
That'd be cool.
Did you see the one comment before we did the giveaway? Today's giveaway, FTX coin.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What is the name of their coin? Yeah, today's giveaway, if you go sign up with FTX, we're going to give away all your money. Sorry. Too soon?
Too soon?
Yeah, no, we're not associated with those
Back-
bungs at all.
Back to the old questions here.
Yes, and I saw one, right? I love this, Frank. Frank pops in a question in the middle of the pandemonium of giveaway. And it said, and we got it. Because normally, all right, so here's the deal. Any question you've typed in the chat at this point before the giveaway has been lost, I can't scroll up high enough to get to it. So if you had a question that you want us to potentially be able to see, you're going to have to retype it, because it is now lost in the ether of the chat. So Frank said, would there be a negative impact on beneficial bacteria if I cycle a new tank with tap water GH of 30 plus before doing a change of 75% RO? Using RO to cycle would get pricey at 2 or 3 changes a week. Yes, you could potentially have it. Well, the GH is not as important as the KH in terms of pH. GH, KH, pH. All right, so the most important thing when it comes to the beneficial bacteria is regulating your KH, because that's going to help stabilize your pH. And yes, there are different microbes that grow at different pH levels. So as part of that, you're going to want to make sure that minimally your pH is stable. That's going to be one of the most important things. I did, by the way, a science series video. So if you just type in science series Primetime Aquatics, one of the videos I did talked about water hardness and the relationship between pH, I think it was KH, and beneficial bacteria. So I actually did something like that. That's a great question. All right.
For a bowl front,
Bowl
45-gallon lightly
Love
planted
it.
tank. What light?
All right. So 45-gallon bow front, lightly planted. I personally, I like the Hygger lights. I like the simple Hygger light more. So this is going to sound weird. I have them both. This one right behind us, that's a Hygger light. The reason I like them, and I've done a review on them. I did a long-term follow-up review for a couple reasons. I like the fact that you can adjust the intensity. You can also, to a certain extent, adjust a little bit of the color spectrum, although it's not as extreme as, like, let's say, a Flue Ball 3.0. They are fairly competitively priced. Again, just a simple one that's just got the 3 or 4 buttons. I have the Hygger planted on a 125, the 125 VA hot tank. The problem that I have with that light, it runs great. It's a great light. The problem is, every time our external timer shuts the lights off, it doesn't come back on. And so now I've got to go back down there. I've got to turn it on. It'll shut off with everything. It just won't turn back on. If you're not running an external timer, then it's not something you have to worry about. Then you could also consider the planted Hygger light, but I don't necessarily think you're going to need it because this is the 4-foot Hygger back here. It's just got the 4 buttons, just a standard light. And then we've got, when I did the review, I liked it so much, I actually went out and bought, I think, 3 or 4 more for the fish room. So as other lights were starting to maybe not work as well, that's what I would do. So price point, they're maybe about the same as the Night Crew, a little bit more than the beams work, but I like the color spectrum better on the Hyggers, certainly compared to the beams work. And we've had some issues with the beams work lights, like the 6-footers. We got every one of the 6-footer beams work lights died on us. Like, I mean, it was just, they didn't even last. I don't know, what was it, a year? Since then, I've had a couple other ones go out on us. So if I was picking a light in that price category, Hygger would be number 1. Night Crew, I would also consider. If you want something with more features, brighter, you've got the Stingray, the Phoenix Stingray 2, which has been a pretty good light for us. I think we have that on 2 tanks. They've worked fine. They're a little brighter than the Hyggers are. If you want to go more than that, then you're getting into like the Flueball 3.0s, but you said lightly planted. I'm assuming beginner plants like Anubias, Crypts, Swords, which don't need all those features, but they're cool features nonetheless, but you probably don't need all that.
While you're on the subject of lights, for Jasmine, what length, size, and type of light to put on a 75-gallon? It has glass lids, and so far my kids have been careful to not touch the lids, and very few plants.
Again, this one right here, it's a 4-foot Hygger. If you've got very few plants, there is no point really in buying a very expensive light that's designed to make sure your low light plants, your high light plants, your CO2 plants are growing great. The Flueball 3.0s are amazing. I love them. We've got them on both 2 of the 125s. I love the fact that I can go into the app on my phone. It recognizes it right away. I've never had an issue with the Flueball app. The thing has been on my phone for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years now. I can go in and just from my phone, I can sit in front of the tank and I can play with the spectrum of light. I can play with the intensity, all these different things. Trust me, it's really cool, but it's also a very expensive thing to do. So on a 75-gallon, typically 1 4-foot light. Again, the Hyggers are fine, the Night Crews are fine, the Phoenix Stingrays are good. We've got 4 75 gallons in the fish room right now. 3 of them are running the old. I want to make sure I'm telling the truth. 1, 2. Yeah, 3 of them are running the old Phoenix Stingrays. So when you look at those tanks, you're like, okay, is that acceptable for you? Then if it is, hey, that's an option. Not the old ones. The Phoenix Stingray 2 would be better now. One of them has got the Kessel lights. And those are the big Kessel 360 Tuna Sun. Each one of those lights with the little gooseneck thing, just to give you an idea, is $360. Kessel gave them to us. I did not buy them. I don't think I would ever. Well, I shouldn't say that. Would I? Yes, I would. If I have a display tank, I would spend that money. But if it's a tank like you want people to actually just stop and be like, whoa, I promise you, the Kessel lights do things the other lights that no LED strip light can ever do. And I've used almost all of them. The Kessel lights have that shimmering. They have that really rich, deep, high-end look. But you are going to pay through the nose for that. I've got 2 of them on a 75 because basically one of them is good for around 2 feet of fish tank space. And that whole setup is, nowadays, with inflation the way it is, it's probably going to run you $800-900. You don't need that. So then you can go with the Hyggers, you can go with the Night Crew, you can do the Phoenix Stingray 2. 1 4-foot light should be plenty.
Have you ever had Chihiros? Is that how you pronounce it, James? The lights, Chihiros?
What are you even saying? Spell it for me.
CHIH.
Oh, okay. Love Kessel, but no, I have not. I don't know what that is.
I have to look into that.
Yeah, it's cheaper. James, does it give you the shimmering look? Does it give you that crazy shimmer? Because
love it.
That's.
Although on
once
that
you've had that, it's crazy, man.
Well, I get that little shimmering effect on that little nano pico light that I have on Peanut's tank.
Yeah, I noticed that because it's really annoying because it happens on the ceiling, but it's not the same. That what's happening there
moody.
is the shimmering is bouncing off the surface of the tank and then it's hitting the ceiling. That's not what I'm talking about. We want
It's for me. I like it.
the shimmering that I'm talking about is happening in the water.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Not bouncing off the water.
Yeah, I'm
I
aware
think
of
the
that.
shimmering that's happening in your tank is just because you've got that filter set up the way you do, and it's just the water is wavy. But yeah, that's pretty great, man. Morgan says, I like my Phoenix Planted Plus 24/7. For my heavily planted 10-gallon, I wanted something that would work as a night light because it's on my nightstand. Yeah, that's cool because then you can do the blue lights, but then you can also, I think on that one, can you adjust the blue lights down as well? Because that's kind of cool. I'm fairly certain. Did the Higers do that? I don't remember. No, I can't remember. I thought they did, but maybe not. Let's see here. Sea Monster says, is that C? G? Oh, that's all blending together. Do you order fish online? Have any recommendations? It depends on what you want. So again, if I'm buying shrimp or nanofish, the reason we are associated with Flip Aquatics, the reason why we are partnered together is because I've been to that facility multiple times. I've seen the fish. I've seen their quarantine process. In fact, there's going to be a video coming out in the not too distant future about what they do for their quarantine process. We did a video together where he talked about how they acclimate fish. I mean, these things matter. When you're talking about where you're buying fish from, it matters when wherever you're buying fish, they've either bred them or if they're bringing them in from somewhere that they've quarantined them for a sufficient period of time. And so most online retailers, pet stores, if they're going out 2 weeks, they're doing really well because it's hard for companies to hold inventory and not turn it. And Flip Aquatics holds their fish for 2 weeks. And so in that time, if there are fish that are sick, if they come in weak, guess who's taking the hit on that? They are, not their customers. That's one of the reasons why we partner with them. Same thing with their shrimp. In fact, their shrimp, they hold even longer because they have to wait for them to go through a molt. And so that could be up to 4 weeks. So you really ask the questions. Again, for those, I don't care where you're buying your fish from, whether it's online or a pet store, put them in that uncomfortable spot. How long do you quarantine your fish? I guarantee you, most pet stores will be like, wait, what? Well, we've had them for like 2 days. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. It means literally nothing. They might as well have had them for 30 minutes. If they've had them for 2 days, they might as well have had them for 30 minutes. If they had them for less than a week, they haven't seen anything yet. What we do, and one of the things I will never get away from, when I did the aquaculture and fish health master cert, we had experts coming in from all over the country, and they would do talks in some of the lectures. And these were people who were in charge of big time, very, very expensive setups at aquariums, public aquariums, and they quarantined for 4 weeks. And the point that they make is, listen, if we have a problem, if we bring something in and we put it in one of these very large displays and that fish gets other fish sick, especially if it's saltwater or it's our reef tank, we have a catastrophe on our hands. And so because of that, they're 4 weeks. And I have always followed that, and that's what I've recommended in my quarantine video, is if for you, the hobbyist, I don't care where you're getting them from, whether they've quarantined them or not. Even with Flip Aquatics, yeah, they've quarantined them for 2 weeks, but take the responsibility for yourself and also quarantine 4 weeks. By 4 weeks, everything's showing up. All your internal parasites are showing up. If they were weak fish, if there was some genetic abnormality where their immune system is not functioning well, and they have the potential to make other fish sick, are they eating? Are they adapting to your water parameters? That's what we do. We bring the fish in. If we're not breeding them, they're sitting in our tanks for 4 weeks before we bring them to a swap. And that's the reason. Hopefully, that's the reason why most people, when they get our fish, are like, "Wow, yeah, they're doing great. We want more." Because if there are issues, we're dealing with them. And they're getting used to our water parameters. And if we lose fish, we lose them, not the people we sold them to. So, Flip Aquatics, shrimp, small fish all day long. If you need something they don't carry, then there's a lot of options out there. But again, you have to ask the questions. How long have they been in their facility? What are they doing to ensure that you're getting healthy fish? You've got places like the Wet Spot out on the West Coast that has massive inventory. So a lot of people like that. You can take your chances with Aquabid, but again, you're getting people who are just a lot of hobbyists who breed stuff. It's kind of like Aquabit is like the eBay for fish keepers. So you get people who are selling fish there. Some of them are really good. Some of them are horrible. Guppies. If you're looking for high-end guppies, some of the best guppies we've ever gotten were from Twin Cities Guppies. He's actually got a store now in Minneapolis in a mall.
Yeah.
But we've still got some guppies that we got from him at the very first Aquashella, and they're just crazy. I tell you, for a long time, I didn't think we could keep guppies. I kept getting them from these pets, like the local pet stores, and they kept dying all the time. I'm like, I cannot keep guppies. I've got hard water. I've got a good pH for them. They never live. And once we started getting them from the club and from Twin Cities, they were never had a problem again.
All right, wait. Hold on. I just got a second one in here. All right, Rob wants to know, do you have to pre-order for the swap meet?
It's always best. So here's for our swaps. Go on our website, primetimeaquatics.com. If you see something you like, it's best to pre-order. And so what we do is, if the swap, so this Saturday is the swap. Friday, I'm going to write out all the bags. I'm going to make sure I got all the orders together. We pack up our fish on Saturday morning. The nice thing about pre-ordering is the fish you want are going to be there, because typically what I do is I put a certain number on the website. I might hold some back because the last thing I want is to be like, okay, well, we've got, 20 chili rasbora, and I put all 20 on the website, and then, oh my gosh, one or two, they vanished, they jumped out of the tank, something happened, I don't know what happened to them. And now somebody's short. So what I'll typically do is, if I've got 20, I might put 15 on the website, and then I might bring a bag or two. But inevitably what happens is, other vendors, before the swap ever even opens, are like, I need those, and they start buying fish. Or you just wind up 10 minutes after the thing opens, and those first people know what I had as well. They run over to the table, they buy fish, and it happens every swap. It happened this past weekend where somebody wanted peacock gudgeons and redline rasboras. And I remember they were looking at them like, okay, they walked away. And then I saw them come back. But at that point, there were two people. There were 3 or 4 bags of peacock gudgeons left, and 2 people wiped them out. And then the other dude was standing there, like, all right, well, I guess I'll buy the redline rasboras. Why bother with that? Just, if you pre-order, it's going to be there waiting for you. So. But
the rest of the swap, the other vendors, I don't think they don't pre-sell, do they? Most
of
them. Oh, they do?
They might do it differently than we do.
Right.
But yeah, there are other vendors there that will, if you reach out to them on the website. So if you go to the Greenwater website, or if you go to GCCA website, they'll have the list of the vendors. That's why they put them there. They should have a contact, and you can reach out to them and see if they can set. I don't know how they do pre-orders, but.
Oh, okay. And then Whip wants you to check if he's still a member.
Is Whip still a member?
Yeah,
you're still a member. I got your little purpley sign right here.
Oh, all right. Because maybe he used his membership chat this month already. Do you only get?
I don't know how that works.
I don't know
but anyway,
either.
Frank, by the way, I appreciate you becoming a primate primetime partner, Frank. Thank you
Woo-hoo.
very much. Sean, I missed this one too. Sean has been a member for 2 years. That's really awesome. Thank you. Jason and Joanna, I'm setting up a 55-gallon tank, number 10, suite for koi angels, cories, gold nugget pleco. Will 2 large sponge filters, 1 with small power head, be good? Yeah, so, all right, well, back up. With that stocking level, I know for a fact, biologically speaking, so just the biological filtration, if I had a cycled sponge filter in there that it would have enough surface area to theoretically, one tiny little Hydro Zero, little bitty filter would have more than enough surface area to house the beneficial bacteria along with the surfaces in that tank for that setup. I have stocked hundreds and hundreds of fish and smaller fish in 20-gallon longs with a little tiny Hydro Zero, no ammonia, no nitrite spikes. So from a biological filtration perspective, you've got way more than you're ever going to need. However, that's not the only type of filtration. The other part of that is the mechanical filtration, the ability of the filter to pull all the little parts and pieces and particulates out of the water. And sponge filters are the worst filter for that. Now, you're solving part of that because you're going to hook up a small power head to one of the sponge filters, which means you're going to get a lot more water getting sucked through that sponge filter. It's going to trap a lot more stuff. That also means you're probably going to have to clean that sponge filter every single week, because once it traps everything, it's going to stop right away, and then it's not going to be of a whole lot of use. So to answer your question, with that, I consider that to be, so 10 koi angels, cories, gold nugget pleco. Yeah, you're fine with the 2 sponge filters. Now, for me personally, and I think I talked about this in a video, I don't use power heads on sponge filters. And the reason I don't do that, the whole benefit to me for a sponge filter is economy, right? Especially when you said you've got tank number 10, right? So you're getting to a point where you're starting to think about, maybe the air-driven system in the sponge filters is the way to go given the number of tanks you have, especially if they're in the same room. That makes sense. That's why we do it. It's the only reason why I run sponge filters is because of the number of tanks we have, and I don't have enough power in the house to run other types of filters on all these tanks. That being said, the minute I run a power head to a sponge filter, I'm now plugging something in. If I'm going to plug something in, I would much rather have a hang-on back filter. It's not even close for a number of reasons. One, I'm not taking up the space in the tank. 2, I don't have to look at the sponge filter because a hang-on back filter, all you've got is a little intake that you're seeing. 3, I contend and firmly believe, as someone who has to clean lots of filters every week, and the boys would probably tell you the same thing because they clean a heck of a lot more filters than I do, it is, for us, so much easier to clean a hang-on back filter compared to a sponge filter. That they're both easy, right? To take a sponge filter and take the sponge out and walk it over and do your cleaning and put it back, that's not hard. But it's even easier when I pop up the back of a hang-on back filter, grab the filter floss, chuck it in a bucket, put the new filter floss in, shut it, and be like, okay, I'm done. Right? And it's less messy, and I don't have to get all wet, and it's easier just to reach behind than grab the sponge filter out from the tank. So if I'm going to be plugging something in, then I'm just going to do a hang-on back. So you could do a sponge filter on one side, hang-on back on the other. If you really want to do the 2 sponge filters and the power, that's fine. Again, the initial question was, is it going to be enough? Yes, it will be enough. What is so funny?
Strawberry goldfish. Remember, for 2 months.
What? That's sweet.
Yeah. What is an ideal scape for a pea puffer in a 5-gallon? I would say crypts. I like crypts. If you don't mind, you may have to pull them out, or you can use smaller crypts if you want, like crypt parva. Anubias. It's really fun. Get some nice planted. They're gonna like a lot of cover, and so they can hide and poke around, and then just some little driftwood, and just kind of like a small little lush forest for them to investigate and hide when they want to. And stalk snails.
Sure thing.
Make it easy though on yourself so that you can clean up. If you are gonna, let them take care of snails for you, you're gonna want to clean your tank, and that's gonna cause extra work. So you may want to keep that in mind where you're placing, so you can get your gravel back and stuff, etc.
Bunny Viper, what's up? Bunny Viper says, use the app Primetime Aquatics to get their attention. Don't spam the chat.
Oh, yeah. We
That's wisdom right there.
Yep, we try
pure wisdom
to get as
Glad you're
many
here.
as possible.
Yep, we do. Let's see here. Alex Game says, I have a Danio that looks like it's sick, but is still eating. Should I medicate it by itself? If it's not, the only time I definitely, absolutely wouldn't do that is if it was ick, because don't ever remove fish from a tank that's got, if it's got ick, leave the fish in there, treat the whole tank, because by the time that fish is showing spots, trust me, the parasite is already in that tank. You're going to have to treat it anyway. If it looks like it might be some kind of a bacterial or fungal thing, something funky going on, maybe it's got one like bacterial infection spot or something, you could certainly do that. Then it might be worth removing. Just keep an eye on the other fish. Make sure they don't get anything weird either. But yeah, if it's ick, I always just treat the whole tank.
Shrimp substrate.
Sand.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to buffer your water lower for Caridina and you want to use like the flue ball stratum or something. But I like sand. And the reason why I like the sand is if you're going to feed shrimp any of the, the fun things that feel like those snow pops or whatever those things are called, or you've got sinking foods, whether it's rapashi or whatever you're feeding it. If you use gravel, that food will sometimes sink into the gravel, and then you wind up with getting like detritus worms, and it's a little bit easier to get planaria, and it's a little bit harder, especially when they're breeding, to kind of keep the gravel clean. So sand to me with shrimp is definitely the way to go. That's what I like to use. Casper says, what do you think about carob sea substrate for shellies? Sure, definitely. Sometimes it's, especially if you've got naturally, the water's a little bit softer or your pH is a little bit lower, the carob sea cichlid mix is a really good thing to use. It's got some shells and stuff that are kind of crunched up in it. And carob sea, by the way, there's a lot of different types of carob sea. Didn't you do that video? Was that carob sea that you highlighted?
Yes, it was. So they have a lot of
this. Yeah, what you'd want to do is go to the small scape. That's Joanna's channel, and you did a video, and it was, what was it titled?
Booths, 2 booths or 3 booths that you may have missed at
Aquashella. And one of them was the carob sea booth, and I didn't even see this, but they did a really good job where they what did they do? Did they put it in like a little thing?
Yeah, they just have this small little display. I've seen it before, and I forgot to get footage of it at a previous Aquashella, but I thought it was awesome. They had just little tiny containers that were labeled with the color, and it's super helpful to see them all lined up.
Yep.
Now what I would do is I would make the container slightly larger and add water. So I would have like half and half. Have it dry, like one container would show it dry, and then also with water, because it will change the color.
Just complicating the things.
Heck yeah, I am. That's anyway, what I do.
Yeah, carob sea sand. I have used that before. It's fine. It's good. It's good stuff. Now it says, what are your thoughts on using salt to treat illness? Definitely. As long as you don't have a bunch of plants in your tank, as long as you don't have salt-sensitive fish like cories or some loaches. Just got to be a little bit more careful, generally speaking, with some of the fish from South America, some of your tetras and stuff. If I've got African cichlids, they can take a lot of salt. I mean, I have dumped in 1 tablespoon per 3 to 4 gallons, especially with ick, and it does well. And it's not even salt just to treat infections, but when I've done videos on, how to treat ammonia or, high ammonia or especially nitrite, salt is sometimes advisable to use. So I don't add salt to our tank just to add it. I don't remember where I was. Maybe it was like, I almost never pipe in on Facebook posts, almost never. But I think it was a Facebook post on one of the groups, and somebody asked a question, do you use salt just to use it? And it wasn't directed towards me, it was just to the group or whatever, and I saw people responding. And for me personally, I don't use it unless it's part of an ick treatment protocol or something like that.
Gigi Goldfish says, my betta buddy, Prince Philip, I love that name. I had a betta buddy named Elizabeth.
All right.
Got fin rot. It advanced quickly, but we put him in a quarantine. We finished a 5-day treatment of Maricin 2. Should we do another round or let him recoup slowly?
Let's see if it's getting better.
It's and then she added, today we did a 25% water change. Okay. His fins still look very beat up.
Well, the fins aren't going to necessarily grow back right away either. So what you're looking for now after that series of treatments is it not getting any worse? Is it starting to heal? Because fin rot's going to do some damage to the fins, obviously, and now they've got to regrow. So in that 5 days, you might not notice a significant amount of regrowth, but the question is, did it stop? And if it stopped, you don't see it getting any worse, and it is in fact getting better over time, then it might not be necessary to do anything else with it. Let's see here. It says, is there an app or website that will allow me to build a virtual aquarium setup? There are lots of games, but haven't found a serious aquarium planner. Yes, and somebody pipe in because I know somebody here is going to know. There is an app. What is the name of that app? What is it called? I don't remember, but it's actually it's right on the tip of my tongue. I've never actually used it, but people who have said it was relatively good. Anybody's got the name of that app for like the fish stocking, you can add the stuff in. We've done videos, by the way, on everything from a 10 all the way up to probably a 75 maybe. And what we did, so we've done two different types of videos. One is we've done videos on just fish you can put in each size tank, but then we went back and we're like, okay, that was okay, but a lot of people were asking, can I keep the fish together? And so the second round of videos that we did, there we go, AQ Advisor. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. AQ Advisor, now I've never used it, so I don't know, but from what I heard, it seemed like it was okay. But we've also done videos on 10s, 20s, pretty much all the common sizes of fish you can actually keep together, where it's like, okay, just pick one from each category so you can kind of see what they look like. Saints Dust says, do you ship fish? No. Right now, it's shipping fish brings on a whole level of work that we both work full time. So it's this Primetime Aquatics thing is on our off hours, and shipping fish requires
knowledge. And yeah, I would be so scared.
It's not even that. It requires time, and it's just not time that we have. And I wouldn't want to start shipping fish. And quite frankly, we sell everything we bring in at these swaps, because we do at least a couple swaps a month.
Yeah, we're lucky
it's hard enough right now just keeping up with that demand, because we're bringing in a lot of fish and then quarantining and then making sure they're okay, and then they turn, and next thing you know, we got another shipment in. So that's been pretty busy, and it's the two of us, and the boys do a lot of the maintenance. But if we started shipping fish, we'd have to do something different, because it'd be a lot more work.
I need an official shipping station. McCoy, hi McCoy, says good morning from England.
Good morning.
Lucky.
Wow,
good morning. It's super
early morning,
2-3 in the morning.
Late night.
Have you ever kept the Monte Cristo cichlid? I know you love your VAS.
Monte Cristo. Can you look that up? What is the actual name of that? Because sometimes the common names are different depending on where you're at. Let's see here. Alberto says, will rummy nose tetras handle high heat? I want to keep the school with them with my gold ram. Yep, they'll be fine with the gold ram if you're keeping them at like 82-ish or so. They'll be fine. A lot of people will keep the full-size rummy nose even with discus. I know when we were at the rummy nose tetra, no, the discus species profile did, they had a bunch of rummy nose in that giant 3,000-gallon tank, and they were keeping that tank pretty warm. I mean, when you felt the glass, it was definitely appropriate temperature for discus, and the rummy nose seemed to be thriving in that tank.
It's the Ascora heteros.
Yeah, you got that?
Heterospisa? Spell heterospila?
No, I don't think I've kept that one.
It's pretty.
Yeah. I've got the Viejas and Spilum, and I've got the
Take a look at that.
Argentia. Ooh, that looks a lot like the Spilum.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really pretty. What's so cool about the Vieja, at least so far for us, is I've got 10 of the Viejas and Spilum in a 125, and they are still, there's not a single fin that's nipped. They don't chase each other. They really have behaved quite nicely, and they behave well with the electric blue car that are in there. I don't know if I expected them to do so well, because the Vieja Argentia that I have that's a whole different situation there. I've got a couple of them in a 125, and they are considerably more rambunctious, if you will. Any advice on keeping crayfish in Chicago water? Just do it. I do. So if we're talking about like the blue ones and the oranges, we do, and the water is relatively hard. The pH is pretty decent. I haven't had any issues. I've kept both the nice colorful ones, and I've picked them out of a pond and kept those too.
I don't know if this was specifically for Noel, but 2 bettas in a 10-gallon will be too much? Yes. Yes. You keep 1 betta all by itself, unless you're
males.
Breeding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And females in a 10 would not work because it's too small. They'll fight.
Mm-hmm.
We did a video on betta sororities, and I spent some time talking with a lot of betta breeders, a lot of people who do the large betta sororities, and their advice was the best results you're going to get larger tank, at least 4 foot, and you're basically stocking the female bettas as though it were an Mbuna tank or a peacock tank. So you're overstocking them. I've been to some of those breeders and those tanks. They're actually stocking those sororities like 1 fish per gallon, 2 fish per gallon. I mean, it's really over the top, but they said that's how they cut down on the the aggressiveness. So, yeah.
Ron, there were you. Oh, it jumped. Do you think it is realistic to have a pair of discus in a 55-gallon planted community tank?
When they're small, and it's not like they grow crazy fast, but full-size discus, I don't know if I'd keep them in a 55. I've always said that for me personally, the bare minimum I would probably do is a 90 because it's a 4-foot tank. It's like a 75, but it's much taller. But even that to me that's pushing the lower end. I've got the 4-foot 150 that I think would be kind of nice for some discus at some point, maybe potentially someday. The 125s that we have, I feel like they're not. They're big enough. For me personally, I don't know if they're a tall enough tank. Even though, what are they? Probably 20, at least 20, around 23 inches or so tall, right? And I still feel like a full-grown discus might look a little cramped. Just like a veil-tail angel would. So, what? Anyway.
Veil-tail angel, huh?
The veil-tail angel we had was a foot from the top to the bottom.
You did like this.
Veil-tail. It was like 10 feet tall.
Sounds like a fish story.
I had a veil-tail that was 10 feet tall. It almost ate my arm. So anyway, I think if I were going to do it, like a 6-foot 150 would be pretty cool, or even a 180. Jaden says, what are some cichlids for a 10-gallon tank other than shell dwellers? Even if I were going to do shell dwellers, I would only do a single pair, and most likely what's going to wind up happening is you're going to have to move out some of the fry as they grow. So 10 gallons, not a lot of space for really any cichlid. The other one in a 10, again, this is strictly just breeding. It's not really even, hey, I'm keeping this fish with a bunch of other fish, is like the Nanacara. But the Nanacara are also, they're basically like electric blue acara. They get a little bit more yellow. They're small, right around probably less than 2 inches, but they can be aggressive with one another. So it'd be like one of those things where, hey, I'm putting a pair in there and maybe they'll breed for me. But I don't know if I would keep anything long term. I don't know if it would be enjoyable for you long term.
Whip wants to know, so this new Greenwater location, is it bigger than the Bird Place? Is the parking better at least?
Parking is better, but the venue is smaller. But the parking is much better because they've got 2 lots. And yeah, it's a nice place. They're all the place was filled with vendors and stuff. So you're still getting all the cool selection, but it is smaller.
Oh, and there's another really good question. It was a fun one.
A fun one, huh?
It was. It had, this is from Matthew. Thoughts on amphibians, dwarf frogs with mixed communities, fish and inverts. Any success stories? Like African dwarf frogs. You can keep those. I want one really bad.
Okay. So the African dwarf frogs, there's just a few things you have to consider. Inverts, they're most likely going to eat baby shrimp and moderately sized shrimp. Will they leave the adults alone? I don't know. I've never even tried that because I knew that they would make quick work of the smaller ones. Any fast-moving fish with the dwarf frogs, you're probably going to have to spot feed the dwarf frog, like bloodworms and stuff, or if you can get them on pellets. We had our dwarf frogs on pellets, but you just had to make sure that they were getting enough food because a lot of fish are so much faster that they eat the food. The dwarf frogs, if you ever watch them, they're like, what is this stuff sitting right in my face? Am I supposed to eat this? Meanwhile, you've got like guppies or endlers or tetras like, pow, 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 pow. They're all like, you're an idiot, man. This is called food. You got to eat it. And the dwarf frog's like, I don't know. And next thing you know, they just shrivel and they...
Poor little guys.
So, with the dwarf frogs, just the big thing is making sure they get enough food. And any fish you put in there, they can't be like fin-nippy like fish. They have to be on the smaller side and just not picking on your dwarf frog. I saw one. Mel says, I have a female betta with cloudy eyes, only the iris after feeding live black worms, treated with general cure, parameters 7.4 pH, no ammonia, no nitrite, 5 nitrite. Okay, so you got a cycled tank. You fed some bloodworms, something's going on, cloudy eyes. Oh my gosh, there used to be there was a natural med that I think I picked up at one of the Greenwater, just regular meetings. You do like the little raffles, and I just grabbed this thing, and I had cloudy eyes and our star sapphires, and I poured the stuff in it. For the life of me, I don't remember what it was. If you're looking for meds, then the possibly the Maricin Oxy, Maricin 1, Maricin 2 would all potentially be something that would fix that issue if it doesn't go away on its own. And I've had times where fish get injured where they get swollen eyes or what we consider pop eye or cloudy eyes, and it goes away all by itself without treating. But that doesn't happen all the time. And in fact, I don't know if it would even happen half the time. So it's just one of those things where you keep an eye on it. But if it's not going away, that's probably the way I would lean. Pistachio. Can certain fish pellets make the aquarium water stink? Oh, yes, they can. I usually feed bloodworms and brine shrimp, but anytime I feed pellets, it makes the rooms and water stink. Absolutely. There was at one point I was feeding New Life Spectrum, the pellets, and the New Life Spectrum has garlic in it. And I would chuck that stuff in. I remember I used to complain like crazy.
Oh my gosh,
the fish room smells horrible, and it did. Now, most of the time, if you're just feeding it to 1 or 2 tanks, it's probably going to be fine. But when you're feeding it to an enclosed fish room, and I think it was probably summertime at the time, so it was, the dehumidifiers on, but it's a little bit more humid than it would be in the wintertime, and I'm chucking handfuls of this New Life Spectrum in all these tanks, and it's got the garlic, and I think that lasted, maybe a week or 2, and we used it up, and we just didn't use it ever again because it smelled so bad. So yes, certain pellets can make your tank smell, but the other thing too is just make sure that there's no fish food actually on the rim of your tank, because sometimes when you're throwing food in there, it gets caught in the plastic rim, like between the glass lid and the rim itself. That will smell horrific too. So there's that. All right, let me see here. We'll answer a couple more. Man, it goes by so fast. Y'all ask good questions. Next thing you know, it's like an hour and a half later. It's crazy. Jasmine says, how can I stop my angelfish from laying eggs? I lowered temperature from 80 to 78. That's good. Moved them to my 75-gallon and still managed to lay eggs. Yeah, you're going to have to break up the pair. That's how you get them to stop. So separate male and female, and then don't worry about it anymore. But they may not ever stop. Now, if you don't want the eggs to be there, put a bristlenose pleco in there, and they'll take care of it. Make sure make sure it's completely dark in the room. Throw a bristlenose pleco in there, and he will make quick work of those eggs, because the angelfish will fall asleep. They won't know what's going on. They won't be able to see, and the bristlenose plecos will come in, eat all the eggs, and they'll wake up in the morning like, what the heck, man? Where's all our eggs? Meanwhile, the pleco will be on a rock going, hey, man, my tummy's full. Yep. That's what happens.
Jesus is looking for some ideas for plants for a jungle-style 10-gallon. I'm heading to Anubias and Jungle Vale. Anything else? Yes.
Love it.
Microsword, I think, would be kind of fun if you wanted some lower growing, or Crypparva is kind of fun. And, oh my gosh, I'm totally drawing a blank. What is the...
What's the one?
It's like I consider it like a miniature Jungle Vale. It's not. What is the one that I used in Flip's tank? Do you remember?
I have no idea what did you use?
Oh my gosh.
Crypspiralis?
No.
I don't know.
No, it's oh my gosh, I'm drawing a complete blank.
What's the one in your 20 farm tank that looks like wisteria that I was liking? Because that's got a jungle look to it. It looked like water wisteria, but it was smaller. What's in the farm tank?
Oh, that's Bulbitis.
I like that.
But it doesn't look. No.
Yeah.
I would disagree.
Yeah.
This looks like a fern. What? All right.
Fernfish.
Dwarf chain sword.
Sword.
That would be a good one. That's not the one I'm thinking of.
Dwarf sage.
Yes.
That's what they're all saying now.
Yeah. Thank you. I could sleep tonight.
All
Dwarf sage.
Everybody in here is typing up
Dwarf
sage.
Everybody's
Come on,
like,
hello.
And here I am. What is it?
Yeah.
What is
thank
it?
you so much for the super chat. Even though
Whip.
Joanna thinks I'm a cheater and illiterate, I just wanted to say I appreciate you both. I look forward to seeing you guys again. Just not Sunday, it's Saturday.
Saturday.
The green water has changed from Sunday to Saturday. So if you're going to see us, it's Saturday in Tinley Park, not Sunday. Note the day. It's changed. And it only goes from 10 to 12:30. I didn't notice that last time. Not 10 to 1. It's 10 to 12:30.
Really?
Yeah. They're like, get in and get your fish. Get out. So apparently.
Oh.
Yeah. Saints ask, what's the lifespan of swordtails? Well, how long have they lived for me? I don't actually remember. I think I've had swordtails as long as 4 or 5 years, the same ones. I mean, I don't have them right now, but I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they live longer than that. Yeah. Whip says, Saturday, that changes everything. It sure does. You got to mix up your schedule. Yep. It's crazy. All right, everybody. I think it's time for everybody to go to the Nine-Nights. Because, well, wait a minute. We got strawberry goldfish here. Do we recognize them for the last 2 months? The ideal scape for a pea puffer and a 5-gallon. Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So anyway, yeah, we are going to call it an evening. Thank you so much for all the great questions. Thanks to all the moderators, Whip and James and Oink.
Yeah.
And Dave for holding down the fort. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the good questions. So next week, same time, same place. Bring your questions. I love it. It makes the time go by really fast when you guys have amazing questions. So we will see you next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.